Hey everybody, this is Richard. I'm the training manager here at Vertical Response, and I'm here with Raj, the product manager who was in charge of putting this survey tool together. What we're going to talk about today is obviously how you would put the survey tool to use, and how you would create a survey, and then how you would access your reporting, and what all that reporting would mean once you've got a survey out there. I'm going to walk through this demo, and then Raj will interject from time to time anytime he feels there needs to be more detail involved in what I'm giving you. And then we're also going to have 2 points for Q&A, one after we're finished talking about how to create a survey, and then one at the very end when we're done talking about the reporting. So while we're doing the presentation, if you would like to, please submit any questions you have through the question and answer tool that's in the GoToWebinar interface. If for some reason that's not working for you, or you would rather take another approach, you can also email Raj with questions, and his email address is raj@verticalresponse.com. So very straightforward. That's raj@verticalresponse.com, and we can pull the questions that way. So either email the questions or use the interface with GoToWebinar. But we'll go ahead and get started.
So everybody, I just wanted to welcome everybody onto the call as well too. I really thank everybody for taking the time, not only today, to participate in this GoToWebinar, but in addition to just helping provide feedback for us. That early feedback for us really helps us shape the tool and capture some of that feedback so that we build the best survey product out there for you all to use. So I encourage you all to get a feel. We are going to go through this fairly quickly, but at the end of the presentation and with an email, I'll make sure you have enough resources to use this to use the product effectively. So Richard, please take it away.
All right, thank you. So what we're looking at right now is obviously a standard vertical response account, and as you can see along the top of the screen here, that you now have an extra tab called Surveys, logically enough. So if you click on Surveys, this is what you'll see. And to start a new survey, of course, click New Survey. So let's just step through every single step we do here to get a survey going. We have to give it a name. We'll call this Test Survey 1. Then you can give the survey a description if you like, just for your own reference. Of course, this is not a description that anyone using your survey would see, so you don't have to worry about what you write here. Then you get the choice of either starting with a blank survey, so starting completely from scratch and on your own, or using one of our pre-made templates. And of course, we'd recommend, until you have an idea, a good idea of how to use the survey tool, that you start with a template. Right now, there are only 2 templates that we have in the system for this demo, but we'll be adding more over the next several days and weeks. And these templates will cover anything from customer satisfaction, product satisfaction, or products people would like to see, website usage, satisfaction with your customer service, brand recognition, things like that. But for the point of this demo, we'll choose this customer satisfaction, customer support evaluation survey. Then you get to choose what type of survey you want to do. You can do a traditional survey or a blindfold. And the difference here is in a traditional survey, you can actually see your participants' contact information in your reporting. So when they're done taking it, if you invited them, you'll see exactly who answered what. In the blindfold, this actually hides your participants' contact information, and this would allow them to provide more candid feedback. You could make this very clear when you put the survey together that it's a blindfold survey and you're not going to see their information. And then when you look in your reporting area, you'll just see every individual as anonymous, and you won't know who entered what. Then you get to determine who can participate in the survey. You can only allow those people you invite to participate. There's an invitation tool in the survey section here where you can send emails out to invite people to take your survey. So if you choose this option, those are the only people who will be able to take it, are those people you email. Or you can do both invited and anonymous participants. In this case, you could put a link on your website, a link in any other emails you send out, or provide access any other way you'd like to do so. And then both those people who you invite via the email tool, or anyone else who accesses the survey through any other method you provide, can take it. So we'll actually make the survey traditional, and we'll do both invited and anonymous participants here. If you choose both invited and anonymous, You can then choose if you'd like to prevent duplicate responses. So you can say whether you'd want people to take this survey more than once or not, and we'll actually click to prevent. Underneath that, you can choose whether you want to get notifications about the survey once it goes out. These notifications would serve two purposes. One, they would notify you if new responses have come in for your survey, so you can know whether you want to check back in. And then also, for any questions that you create, for the answers to those questions, the possible answers, you can set alerts to tell you someone has answered the question in this way. As an example of how you'd want to use an alert, if you had a customer support question on there that asked, where you were asking people what they thought of their support experience, was it excellent, great, good, fair, or horrible, you could put an alert on horrible, so if someone answers that way, you could quickly see that happened. And if the survey is not anonymous and you have their information, you could quickly follow up with them. You can get these notifications hourly, daily, or weekly. Set this as hourly here. And obviously, if there's nothing to notify you about, you will not get blank notifications every hour. You only get notifications if there's something there.
And actually, just to touch on that too, it's very similar for those people on the call who are used to our opt-in form sign-up notification emails as well. So the format's similar. It just gives you a quick count of what new responses and what new alerts were there, with a link to those results in the product. Just as an aside here too, we are going to implement this feature when we do roll out surveys later, hopefully later this month. But but for the purpose of this early access program, this functionality won't be enabled. So just keep that in mind when you're using the product.
Thank you. The last thing you would enter here on this Getting Started page would be the redirect, where you want to send people once they're done with the survey. This would default to the website you've entered in the profile on your account. But obviously, you can change this to whatever you need it to be. And then you can decide how many seconds need to pass before people are redirected. It starts at 5, so this would mean they're on your thank you page that they're done with the survey, and then you're pushing them somewhere else. And so this would be the site they'd go to, of course, and then this is how many seconds would pass before they're moved there. Let's go ahead and click Next and get into the content. Naturally, my internet connection would slow down as we're looking at the content. But just to give you an idea of what we're going to look at while I'm waiting for this to load. Actually, it's about to pull up here, so we'll just look at it. So we're going to look at two columns here. When you're actually putting your content together for your survey. You have your survey appearance area where you can determine font size and colors and things like that. And then you have your content column where you're actually typing in what people are going to see, your messaging, and where you're determining what your questions are and what your answers are going to be to those questions. Let's start on the survey appearance column here. You can see you can control if your questions have numbers on them. So you can turn that off and on. If you look here, there's a number. We turn it off, and there's not. So very straightforward. Any changes you make here are immediately reflected over here, which is nice. You can turn the progress bar off and on. So this progress bar would tell people how far along they are in the survey. You can have that there if you want or not. You can upload a logo into the survey. So let's actually do that right now. Hopefully I have a nice logo for the survey in my media library. There we go. And of course that brands the survey as being your own. Then you can set your background color, the color for any links that are in the survey, set the fonts for your questions, set the fonts for your answers, and then font size, font color, all those things, but we won't spend too much time messing with that. I'm sure you get the picture. Also, if you're letting anonymous participants take this, so people you didn't invite, you can ask for their information at the end of the survey. If we look at the end of the content area here, I'll scroll quickly to the bottom. You can see there's an area where we're asking for contact information. So anyone you didn't invite would see this. Anyone you invited is not going to get this question because you already know who they are. But people you didn't invite will see this. So you can determine what kind of information you want to gather from those people who you don't already know. And it defaults to email address, first name, and last name for obvious reasons, but you can add more, ask for more information if you want, and then you can also add up to 3 custom fields for that form. Looking at the content side of things. First, notice that you can make this area bigger if you want. You just click on this arrow. So if you don't need this anymore, you don't have to look at it while you're working on your content. So if you want to start editing here, if you want to give this a name, then you do that and click Save. Then you can click in here to change the content. You can add pictures in here if you want, bold, italicize, all those sorts of things, but we won't mess with that. Just leave that how it is. And you can get into the actual questions for your survey. So let's just take a look at one of these. Of course, as I just mentioned, if you click in the content areas of any of these text boxes, you can start editing them. For the questions themselves, if you click, nothing happens. You actually have to click this editing pencil in the upper right-hand corner. So I'll click on that. Now you can start editing the questions that are automatically provided for you by the template. How did you engage with our customer support? Now that question sounds fine to me, but let's add a, let's change some of the language here in the answers themselves. As soon as you make that change, then it's there changed. You can also move these answers up and down using the arrows. You can turn them off. If you want to have it visible sometimes and not visible other times, you can do that. You can also delete it here if you want to. And if you want to add an alert, so you want to know someone engaged with your customer support by using online chat, if you want to know that every time they answer that for some reason, you click that bell. Now this is set an alert, and then that would show up in your notifications anytime someone answers that. You can have as many alerts as you want. You could have all these be alerts if you wanted to. Then you just click again to turn it off. To add new answers, you would do this. And then now you have a new answer there. Underneath this, you can see there are other options. You can allow survey takers to supply an other response. So if they don't like any of your answers here and want to say something else, they can. You can make the question required if you want to. Just click that to turn it off and on. You can choose to make this question visible. So this comes in more into play later, because right now, any questions that are in here you can easily delete, and I'll show you how to do that when we're back on the main page. But once you've got your survey set up and it's live, and you've got a link to give people to start taking it, you can no longer delete questions from the survey, but you can hide them. And how you would do that is to come in to edit it, just like we did now, and then toggle this box. Then the question, if the question is visible, just like that. If you want it to be invisible, then obviously click it again. And then you can decide whether you want survey takers to provide text comments about the question. So if they want to add even more comments about what they think of the question here, then you can have that added below, but we won't do that here. When you're done, click Save, and then your changes are saved for that question. So now we can add another question here. And that's what we'll do. So you can see you can add multiple choice questions. You can add multiple answer questions, single rating where they're only rating one item and what they think of it, multiple rating where they've got multiple items listed in a row and they're rating each one, a priority list where they rate, in order, what do you think of these separate things, and then a plain text box so they can add a free response. Using this insert tool, you can also add a comment block where you're adding your own text and your own explanation to this part of the survey. You can add images, links, and things like that. And then you can add a page break if you want. So you can add more pages to the survey just by clicking the insert button, adding a page break, and then you can start adding questions to those pages. But for now, we'll just choose let's choose a multiple rating question. So now you can see it's asking us to create this question from scratch. So let's use the example question that it gives us. Please rate your experience with our service team. So we'll do a rating scale of excellent, good, add 2 new ratings here, fair, or poor. And then down here we can add the items they'll be rating. Since it's the multiple item rating question, we can say phone, live chat, or email. We can add an alert to poor here, and then move things around if we need to do that. Move poor up, move back down. Make this question required, and then allow people to add comments so that if they did choose poor or excellent, they can tell you why they did so. Then we save the question. And here it is. Actually, no, not there. Here it is. So now people can rate their different experiences with different aspects of your support and then provide additional comments about what they thought. So now, you're getting that should be a good idea of how you would add questions and create them. You also, if you want to use a question as a template, you can copy that question. Next to the edit button is the copy. This will put a copy of the question directly beneath the question you've just chosen to copy. And we'll give that a minute to happen. And then as soon as that's there, I'm going to delete it. And how I'm going to delete it is the one other icon here. You can see this red circle with the line through it. You can delete questions like that. Beyond that, you can also click and drag questions and move them around. So even though this is the same question, I'm going to move it up above this one. And then I'm just going to...
You'll have to trust Richard that it did actually move that.
Yes, even though it was the same question. It doesn't look like it moved, but I assure you it moved. I can tell. So beyond that, here, you can also move questions between pages if you want to do that. Of course, noting how long these pages are, that can be a little difficult as it is. So if you move to the top of the screen here, you can switch to condensed view, and that will actually just show the questions without the answers. So now if you wanted to, you could take this question at the top of this page. Still not the easiest thing in the world, but you could take this question at the top of this page and move it onto that page. You can delete pages the same way you can delete questions by doing there, and you can move pages around by using these arrows as well. So now that's actually, well, let's see, one more thing I want to show before we move on. You don't have to work on all your pages at once, so you don't have to be scrolling all over the place. You can work on one page at a time. You can just have the system show you the different pages that you're working on.
Also, Richard can show the little hidden triangle feature that we should show a little better there.
Oh, and I mentioned this earlier, that you can collapse the survey appearance area. So I'll show you that again and show you how fast it works.
I should pay attention during our demos. Thanks.
That's all right. I forget half the things I say while I'm doing my demo, so no big deal. All right, so let's scroll to the bottom. We'll actually create the survey now. I would spend more time on it, but I don't want to bore you with it, showing you how every question works. You get the idea. You know how you can get in there and play around with it now. So I'm going to scroll to the bottom here and actually go to the next step of creating the survey. So now you have the option to test the survey. And you actually do have to test the survey at least once before it'll let you move past this page. You can take a test survey right now, just right on this page, or you can also have a seed list of people. So if you have multiple people you'd like to test the survey out, check it out before you submit it or before you're ready to give it out to people, then you can do that. I'm going to take this test survey since I have to move on.
And two things while Richard's just taking the survey. One is that this interface that you're seeing now is the same experience that your end users would actually see when they take the survey. So it looks the very same. If Richard scroll to the top, there's actually just that bar at the top that explains it's a test survey. So it'll be the very same experience, except that that bar at the top won't be there. Users actually get to will receive a link in an email or take the link off the website and act from there. So the process of making you test your survey is really as much for your own benefit as it is for anything else. We want to make sure, just like in a email campaign creation workflow, that you go through the survey once, make sure there aren't any spelling errors, and just make sure that the flow and the length of the survey matches your expectations. And once you've completed one of these surveys, as Richard's about to do, then you're free to launch the survey.
And so that's exactly what I'm going to do now. Now I've completed this survey, so I'll come back to this page, and I can move to the next step. Note that once your survey goes live, as we're about to do here, you can always send tests out to individuals. So if you want people to test the survey out, even though you have a link that they can try now, if you don't want their test responses to be a live part of your reporting, then in your dashboard for a live survey, there's an option where you can send tests out to make sure that you're keeping your test responses separate from your live ones. So now when you're ready to go live with the survey, your option is to either go straight to your dashboard or to invite participants. The difference here is if you go to your dashboard, your survey's live, you're given a link that you can use to give your survey out to people. You're also given the opportunity to invite people there. So even though you can invite participants now, so this will take you, if we click invite participants and click go live, this is going to take us to our email creation tools, the same tools you use to create an email normally, and we'll walk you through the process of creating an email and launching it out with your link already there and ready to use, and using language and borders and formats that fit with like a regular survey email. But you don't have to invite people now if you're planning to invite them. You can just go to your dashboard and you can invite people later. It's not necessary to go through that process right now. So I'm actually going to go to the dashboard now and show you what that looks like. So we'll go live. And then from this dashboard, this is what you see if once your surveys are live. If you click on the name of the survey from the main survey page, this is what you're going to see. And you'll have access to doing invitations. You'll have access to editing, customizing your survey further than what you've already done, and building it. And you'll have access to your reporting, of course. So on this dashboard, you can see that you can preview survey, you can run more tests with it, you can go and invite participants, so you can do that here, or go to Invitations tab. You can copy the survey to use as a template for a different survey. You can close it out, or you can revert to draft. I'm not sure what revert to draft would actually mean at this point, so if Raj wants to provide some detail on that.
Absolutely. So once you've actually gone live with your survey, as it shows in the live status bar there on the upper right, once you've actually gone live with your survey, there are a limited number of changes that you can make to the survey itself. You can you still can change whether or not it's anonymous or just invite only or traditional blindfold. So actually, Richard, if you go to the Customize tab there, you'll take a look, and you'll see many of the options are still here. You see you can't switch between traditional blindfold, but there are other options here that you can change, including whether or not you want to allow participants to take it multiple times. And if you go to the Customize, if you scroll back up and go back to the questions and appearance, here you'll see, again, the very same survey editing interface that we used during the creation workflow. And you can see you can add questions and add answer choices. But the thing you can't do in this particular instance, or you can't actually delete existing questions, because once that data is in there, we don't want you to lose that existing data. So that's one of the limitations of going from a draft status to a live status. Once you've actually completed, taken the survey live, and it is in this live, you have a limited number of options. If you decide to revert back to the draft status for a particular survey, you can then make all the changes that you want and really change the entire layout of your survey and the content of it. However, you do need to agree to wipe out your existing responses, because otherwise trying to mix and match those responses just wouldn't work out. So the revert to draft is a pretty significant thing to do, and it's only if you really want to. The other thing that would make more sense in this case, if you already have live responses, would be to create a copy of your survey. And when you create the copy of that survey, that copy is then in draft mode by default, so you can start editing that.
Thank you very much, Raj. So now we can see that we have our link for the survey that we can start giving out to people. If I click this link, it's going to open the survey up. Then you can see you get some basic reporting here on the dashboard page showing how far people have actually gone through your survey and how many people invited or who were anonymous have taken it and completed it and all those things, and how many tests were done. So before I show you how the invitations work, and before I show you the reporting, I want to take a look and see if any questions have come in for this first part of the presentation, so we can answer those for you. So let me pull up my question and answer area here and take a look. So let's see. So after a survey is completed, can an email be sent automatically based off of a user's response? So it sounds like you're looking for the alerts. So if you have the notifications set up in your account and you have an alert set for a question, so you've got an alert based on response, you want an email sent. If you want an email sent automatically to you telling you that happened, then it will be based on the alerts that you set up. But If you want an email to go automatically to the recipient, to the person who did the question, that's something that wouldn't happen with the survey tool. Are there any limitations on the length of the surveys? Not at all. There's no limitations. You can make the survey as long or as short as you want.
Having said that, there are some best practices about that, and we'll be providing some documentation for our customers as well too about, and even you can take a guess. I mean, if you get into a survey and you see a progress bar that you're on page 1 of 15, you may not be as likely to complete that survey all the way through because of the time required. So, try to use some good judgment on that, but there is no specific application limit for that.
Question, can you offer a scalable response, for example, a rating system from 1 to 10? Yes, you can. Ask a question where you ask people to rate what they're looking at and rate it in the order that you want them to do it. Take a few more questions here before we move on. Can you customize the survey, include logos, etc.? Yes, you can include logos in there, and I'll be looking briefly at the customize area again before I move on to invitations. So yeah, you can upload your logo, you can change the background color, font size, font color, font type, all those things. Are the survey results unique? Meaning if one user answers one question and then comes back and completes it again, will there be 2 answers per individual or just 1?
So individuals who are actually invited to participate will be allowed to complete one response per survey. So the key there is that individual shouldn't be allowed to submit multiple responses. So when they submit that the first time through, if they try to click on that same link again, they'll be presented with a message which says that you've already completed this survey. If people want to if people want to take the survey again from the website link, they could do it that way and then enter their information. They could participate in the survey and enter that information there for a second time. But really, from an invite link, there's only one time that the survey can be completed.
Got it. And also, can the survey workflow be changed? For example, showing one question at a time. Yes, so you can have only one question per page if you want to do that. It's all about how you set things up when you're creating your survey. So you can have 30 pages with 30 questions, or you could have 2 pages with 30 questions. That's all up to how you lay things out. But now let's jump back in here and start taking a look at invitations and reporting. And then again, once we're done with that section, I'll jump back in and take some more questions. So briefly, going back to the customize area, again, once you're, as Raj was talking about a few moments ago, once your survey is live, you can still edit a few things about it, like you can participate, things like that. You can also still change the appearance. So if we go in here, you can see you can still upload a logo. You can change numbering, whether you want there to be numbers or not. You can change the background color, fonts, all those things. The only thing, again, that you really can't change here is actually deleting questions from the survey. And as I was doing while Raj was talking, you can't delete them, but you can hide them so people can't see them anymore. You'd still have the statistics you'd collected so far. But at this point, I'd already made it invisible when Raj was talking. So to make it invisible so no one can see it anymore, you just check that box and click Save. And then you can see that this question is now grayed out here so that you know this one is not going to be seen by anybody when they take the survey. But now let's take a look at invitations. So to set up an invitation email, just come here, you choose what tool you want to use. So if you're used to a certain tool in our email, in the regular email program, you can use that tool here. For the sake of this demo, I'm going to choose the Canvas just because it's my favorite one. Click Next. So you're still going to be doing all the same things you would normally do with an email. Entering your from label, entering your subject line. We've entered, this from label comes just like it would in a regular email from your profile. You can change that. We put in the generic subject line here. You can obviously change that to whatever you need it to be. If you look down here in the content, we've already selected a basic survey template here that you can look at. You don't have to use this one. Of course, there are other layouts you can choose. You can use any of our standard layouts, or you can use, we're going to have some survey layouts that show up here soon enough. They're not here right now, but they will appear in here. So if you want to use a survey layout, you'll come here, select it, and there'll be other survey style layouts. But for this case, I could choose salon and spa if I wanted to and enter all the information again. But for the sake of this, I'm just going to leave it alone. Now you can see I can edit my text and say whatever, you can say whatever you need to say here. There's already some personalization in here, hello first name. So anybody's first name you have is going to get pulled in there. You can insert personalization in any normal fashion you would before. The link to your survey is already here and ready to go. And so everything's set up for you just to add some content and mail it out. You have to add a text version like normal. You can just click import from HTML, and there's your text version ready for people to put to use. And that text version, in case no one understands really what the difference is here, we do a backup text version with every email we send out. So if someone's email browser can't handle HTML for whatever reason, most email browsers are smart enough to see that that HTML email includes a backup text version, and they'll see the backup text version instead. Just a quick explanation for what that is. So once we've got our content set, we scroll down here, make sure your unsubscribe link is what you want it to be, make sure your postal address is in there, and click Next Step. Now, this email is saved. You can come back later and work on it more if you don't want to send it right now. It will be saved in your email section and in your surveys area under your invitations. You can go make changes to it later by clicking there if you want to do that. But for now, we'll assume it's ready, and I'll follow the steps for launching it out. Got to preview it. Then we can send ourselves an email test to make sure you like how the email looks. Select the list you want to use. Select these two. Then I'm going to schedule it. Say we'll schedule it for Wednesday of next week. And then we're going to go to the launch page. And on the launch page, this is where you'll see something a little bit different than what you would normally see with a regular email that's going out. You can see we got all the checkboxes verifying we did all the steps to launch the email. But then it's asking us, would we like to filter out recipients who've already taken the survey? So if you've sent out one invitation and people have started to take the survey, you want to send out another invitation to the same group, you can choose to either deliver to everyone on the mailing list you've got or to filter out anyone who's already taken the survey, which is a nice way to not annoy those people who have already taken it and don't need to know that they should take it, that you still want people to take it. So we'll select that option even though no one has taken the survey yet. And then the normal things you would see, your merge fields, making sure your merge fields are good and all that. Now I'll launch this. And it's going to work just like, again, another email would work. When we click launch, it's going to take me out to the home page of the account. And in your reports area, you're going to see that the email is pending launch or pending approval. Once it's approved, it'll be pending launch, and then it'll go out at your scheduled time.
So one other thing just to mention here is that when you're actually sending out these campaigns, the links that we actually put in there are individual for that recipient. So when if Richard was to send that mail to me and send the mail and send the mail to me, I get the link. When I click on that, it's associated with my email address. So that when I complete that survey and when you're looking at the results, you can actually see the survey. You can see the survey results and associate the fact that I took this particular survey and associate those results with me. And again, that's assuming that you've actually got that's assuming that you're using a traditional survey. In a blindfold survey, someone will actually get this invitation and the link will be specific to them, but when you're looking at the results, you won't know who actually said the result, who actually gave that particular feedback, and you can use that to gather more candid feedback from your participants.
As you can see, when I was launching out, an error page came up. It's due at least partially to the fact that I'm in my demo account, which has all kinds of weird things going on with it, and it's connected to all kinds of things that aren't necessarily live, so it does little things like that from time to time. But as you can see, the survey did actually launch out, and it's moved to our reporting area where it's pending approval. If I don't want this to go out and I want to make changes to the email, but up until the time it's no longer pending approval or pending launch, and it's actually gone out, I can go to Actions and unlaunch that. And then it will be, again, in both my email section and in my invitations area of my survey tool. So we'll cancel that launch. And again, my connection's running sort of slow here. So once I'm done with this, I'm going to go back to surveys, and I'm going to look at the reporting tools that you have available. Let's do that here now. I'm actually going to move to a different account for this because my test account doesn't have any real reporting data in it. So we're going to look at some surveys in another account besides my own. You can see things are much snappier in this other account than in mine. So let's scroll down here. We're going to look at this big survey. This is all just test data that we inserted here so that there would be a lot of responses in here. So you'll notice as I'm looking at the reporting that the data is very evenly spread out. Unlike in a normal survey, the questions have pretty similar answers for the most part, like 20%, 19%, 20%. So just keep that in mind when we're looking at this data, that some of the heat maps look very close together in color. It's because there's not a very big difference between the answers people have given.
So yeah, just to touch on that, if we look at the table view there, you can see some slight color variation there with the light blue and the green, but where there's more concentration of particular responses, then you'll see a heat map coloring. So a darker red color would appear for where particular answers are clustered together, and the lighter bluer colors imply that the answers are more evenly spread out among in terms of the distribution.
Exactly, and you can see that you get different. So what we're looking at here before I start digging into the content is of course your reporting, and this first area we look at is just the summary, showing it defaults to show you the percentages of all your responses. So everyone who responded to your survey, of all those people on the first question, and this is kind of a goofy question, rank these in order that you would like to send them to your friends. Then everyone who took your survey responded at 26.4%, as shoes would be the first thing they'd want to send to their friends, followed by pancakes, came in 11%, Pringles 14%, and then Serenity actually won with number as the first thing people would like to send out. But you can see that there are different types of questions. For rating questions, you get this heat map. For these multiple choice questions, you actually get a pie chart showing you, and again, this is very evenly distributed here, but you can see how you get different types of charts for different questions.
And the view answers and the free form and the comments.
Oh yes, and then the free form and the comments. Thank you, Raj, for reminding me there are other types of questions besides just two. So if we look at we can see there are free form answers here. So what do you think of our survey? Since people can write whatever they want here, it's not just all going to show up on this page because that would be an incredibly long page. But if we click View Answers, then you'll get a pop-up here that will show you all the different types of answers you got back from individual people, and you can scroll through them by clicking Next here. So let's now look at some filters that you can put on these questions. So not only can you just see in the summary area what everyone did when they answered to your survey, you can actually drill down the different types of responses. So I could say I only want to look at people who I invited, who completed the survey, and then I can add filters based upon how they answered different questions. So I'll add a filter here saying I want to look at all those people. I want to look at all the responses for those people who said that our service was excellent, very much, kind of a weird way to say please rate our service very much. So let's assume that says excellent here. Now we'll search responses. Now you can see now, based upon only people who were invited or fully completed the survey and who said that their service was excellent, we're now viewing 175 of 3,788 responses. So now we're seeing specifically how everyone who said the service was great, how they responded to this survey. And so you can stack these responses in any way you want. You can just have one and look at everything. You can have 18 different questions here so that you're looking at maybe how 5 people responded to the survey, or how just 1% of your group responded.
And just to add on to that too, when you add the question filters on the left-hand side, you're actually, it's a cumulative effect. So if you were to add a second question filter here, that actually would get, it narrows your search results even more. So if you were to say, please rate our service with excellent, and the next question might be, please rank these items in a particular order, and pick some item, pick a rank, it would be the combination of those results, the intersection of the data, if you will. So this allows you to really drill down and get to just a specific set of people, and then look at responses either at a summary view or down into list of individual view, which Richard will get into.
Exactly. So now let's actually move on to these other views. Before I do that, if we look in the upper right-hand corner here, you can see you can print this data. We'll format it for printing, and then you can download it either as a PDF or a CSV. And then you can create a new mailing list from this if you'd like. And this, what you create here, what you download, will be based upon what your filters are. So this filter will just show us this exact one where we're looking at 175 of the participants and how they answered. We'll get a printout or a download of that. So anything that we set here is what we'll get when we do these downloads. But now let's move on to the list report. In the list report, you can start to see individuals and the individuals who actually took your survey. You can see that the filters I created are still in play here. So if we're in the summary, list, or individual areas, these filters still work. So we're only seeing those people who said that the service was excellent and who were invited, who completed the survey. If we click on one of these names, then we'll drill down, and I'll show you that here in a second. Of course, if this is an anonymous survey, not an anonymous survey, but if it's a blindfold survey, you're not actually going to see anybody's name or contact info here. It's just going to be anonymous. You can still see individual responses, but you won't know who actually did it. But here we'll click on this one. And now we can see exactly how this individual responded to all the questions. And then we can scroll through to the next person in line and the next person and just see their individual answers to the survey. So now we're going to move on to reporting that's separate from these other three, that you actually do different things with side-by-side and crosstab than you do with the summary, list, and individual here. So let's move on to side-by-side. Note that when you move on, and if you move out of the summary of this area, then you lose your filters that you set up over here. So if you've got a specific filter set up that you want to keep looking at in summary, list, and individual, or you want to download or print, be sure to do that before you move over to side-by-side or crosstab, because it actually forgets what you did here when you move here. So now in the side-by-side, you can actually start comparing, how you can take two ways people responded to your question and then compare how those responses affected everything else. So let's say we want to look at, please rate our service. And then also, we can look at any question we want, but let's say we want to compare how people who rated our service as excellent, how they compare to people who rated it as they didn't like it very much. So now we can click Compare Responses. And you can see now we have 793 responses over here, 748 responses over here. So now what we're looking at is exactly how everyone who rated your service as being not all that great, and this is how they responded to everything and how they answered every other question in the distribution. And then, as we were looking at earlier, how people rated everything, and how the people who rated it as excellent responded to all your other questions. With the crosstab, we're doing something somewhat similar in that we're comparing. If we wanted to, we could take the same. We could say, please rate our departments, your different departments in your grocery store. So we'll have how people who rated, please rated your department, how they rated produce. Well, this is the crosstab. So let's just take the same question. Please rate our response with please rate dried goods and build a crosstab. So now we've got filter 1, filter 2, filter 1, filter 2. So everyone who thought produce was excellent, also there were 157 people who thought produce was excellent who also thought that dried goods were excellent. We have 153 people who thought that produce was somewhat good who thought that dried goods were excellent. So the point of this, what this crosstab could do for you. So let's imagine that you're asking two different questions where you're saying rate our service and then how likely you are to recommend this to your friends or how likely you are to recommend this to other people. You could see if someone rated you as excellent here, and then they also rated, they would be much more likely probably to rate you as someone they would actually forward you on to their friends. They would recommend you to their friends. They rated you as not being all that great. You'd probably see that they'd be more likely to not forward your information on to their friends, to not recommend you. So it's a good way to compare how people think about one part of what they think about one part of your service or your company, how that makes them respond to another part of your service or your company. Do you want to add anything to that, Raj, or you think that makes sense?
No, I think it's a great summary of it. What we tried to do with the reporting aspect of this product was give you a way not only to slice and dice your response data so that you can determine trends or figure out where clusters of responses were lying, but then also be able to act on that data. So the side-by-side and crosstab views are really meant to be just different ways of looking at that data, comparing different answers, kind of A versus B. And back in the summary view, actually, if you go back to that summary view, Richard, we can take a look. I also just wanted to show in that create mailing list option, just right there on the bottom. So at this point here, you can create a mailing list and you can give it a list name, and also in the what to export, it would be not only the results of this filter, you could just say just everybody. What isn't showing up here, but is also important, is that remember in your list there was email, first name, last name, and all the standard VR list fields. Those fields would get automatically populated into a VR list. So if you collected email, first name, and last name, and you completed this step here, on your mailing list, you'll get the email, the first name, and the last name. All that data will be automatically populated. In addition, what isn't showing here, just because of this example, if you had custom fields, let's say what's your favorite color, or some other information you're collecting from your survey participants, that would show up here, and you could map that to a VR list field. You could do all that here, and when you click Create List, you can now take that information and push it to a VR mailing list, so that, for example, let's say that you create one of these surveys, it's a customer service survey, and you do get a small percentage of people who come back and say, I had a poor or horrible experience with the customer service, and I'm not sure if I'm going to buy again. You can just using the filters, just get to the specific set of people who answered questions a certain way, export them to a list, and call them targeted troubled customers, or just some customers who you want to target with a particular campaign. Create a new email campaign and say, I understand you've had some a poor experience with us recently. Here's a 10% coupon. So what we try to do is create a complete loop for you, from creating a survey all the way back to communicating with your customers. So hopefully the reporting interface allows you to determine trends across the board, as well as act on specific results within your set of responses.
Thank you. So that gives you a good basic look at how to use the survey tool. So now what I want to do is pull up and see if we've got any more questions coming in since we moved on to the reporting area. So give me a moment here and I'll pull that up and we'll start answering some more questions. There's a question of when the survey tool is going to be available.
We'll actually be sending out an email tomorrow to all the early access program people. So if you've received an email from us so far, then you can actually put you can put on your calendar tomorrow that you'll be getting an email from us with instructions on how to get started with it, and how to contact us for more support.
Next question here: can survey questions be added within the body of the email instead of being redirected to a URL? The answer to that is no, and the reason for that answer is because many email browsers don't support forms and support the sort of HTML that's necessary to create a survey. So if you send a survey out through email for people to fill out, there's a very good chance for a lot of those people the survey would simply break. So the reason for having it act as a link is because that ensures everyone's going to be able to take your survey. Can the survey link be embedded into a web page? Answer to that is yes. And can it be tracked by Google Analytics? So yes, you can do all of that. You can obviously embed it on any web page on your site that you want to do, and then you can track that with your Google Analytics account just fine. It would be a nice feature to be able to send delivery notices to multiple people instead of just one email address. To send delivery notices. So I'm not sure, as far as sending invitations to people, you can obviously send that to as many people as you want. Delivery notices, I'm assuming that means notifications that you get saying that people have responded to the survey or that you received an alert. And so that's right, you can only send that to one email address, but that's something to keep in mind for us to know if we should be adding more addresses as a possibility there.
Great.
If the survey were to go out to 10,000 people and 3,000 were to respond at the same time, would there be any delays filling out the survey? Do you think there would be anything like that? there shouldn't be any delays at all. People should be able to come on and take the survey no matter how many people are taking it. It should still be just as snappy as it would otherwise be.
Yeah, we've actually designed this, and we're scaling for thousands of users at any given time, actually filling out those surveys. So I'd like to believe we have that covered.
Is there any sort of character limit for a free-form response?
I am absolutely positive that there is a character limit for the free-form response. I can assure you though that it's a fairly high number, so people could write a paragraph or two pretty comfortably, and you won't have to worry about that at all. So I don't believe there will be anything, and if there was any limit like that, I believe we could adjust that fairly quickly.
And then, Roger, you could get into what type of costs will be involved with the surveys once the beta program is over.
Absolutely. So this early access program is going to take us through this month here in April. So I am encouraging everybody who's on the call, as well as anybody who's just going to be participating in the program, to test this out as early as you can and give us feedback. The earlier you give us feedback, the quicker that we can act on it and hopefully get that into the product before we actually go live with it. Not that we won't consider it afterwards. It's just we're trying to get the best product out the door at first. Once the product actually goes live, the surveys will be available via a subscription. So you'll have one of several options. You can either sign up for a monthly subscription, where there's no commitment, you just pay for a month worth of access, or you can prepay for 6 months or 12 months with a discount there. If you pay, when you're paying for the monthly fee, it's based on the number of responses that you get back. Test responses aren't counted in that. It's just the live responses that are counted in the survey. The number of live responses that you actually get per survey will affect what tier you should be in. With other survey companies, you may find out that they charge for going over your tier. And that's something which we wanted to avoid that fear of. And we don't want to penalize you for actually getting more responses to your survey than you expected. So there'll actually be some nice upgrade options available to you when you sign up for the product. So for the customers who are helping us out with the survey program, with this early access program, we'll actually give you 3 months after that. But once the product goes live, you'll be able to see the subscription pricing in your account, and you can actually get a feel for what tier fits best for you.
Thank you, Raj. So we're going to move on and take one more question here before we close. I do want to mention, though, something I was just thinking of while looking at the dashboard. You can see that survey statistics on the right show that a lot of people started and completed the survey, but the actual pie chart on the left only shows like 7 people doing that. That's just because of the account I'm using here. It's just a task which just populated this with information, and that just didn't get populated in the how far they got area. So don't expect to see that in your own account. The data you see in survey statistics will actually mirror what you're seeing in how far they got. So now one more question here. I see, does VR have the staff to write surveys for us? So I know that right now some of you may be using the option we have in place where we can create your email for you, put it together for you, and do it all, and then send it back and forth to you so you can approve it. Currently, we're not doing that with surveys, and I'm not sure if that will be something that comes down the line based on the success of surveys, or if people really want this to happen. For now, it'll still just be an email thing, but if it does happen with surveys, we'll certainly make an announcement about it.
We as I mentioned earlier in the call as well, I believe that we'll have somewhere on the order of 20 to 25 templates already created for you, and hopefully they cover the spectrum of needs, and they'll be very generic, so it's very likely that you'll have to edit them yourselves. But please do give us feedback of what types of surveys would be useful to you, and we'll look to add those going forward for everybody.
And then there's a few other notes here that I'm going to make based upon some questions that came in. Someone asked if there's going to be a summary of the questions and answers here. Well, one thing, this webinar has been recorded, so you'll be able to watch this again if you want to do that. And then 2, I'll probably be starting a group in the VR Lounge that covers a lot of these questions with the answers, so that you can actually ask more questions or get into the discussion. And then also, if you wanted to follow up, Raj is going to give you some information here in a moment to show how you can follow up with him and ask him questions directly. So again, before I close, out with my portion here. Then this is recorded. We're going to have that video up. We'll send an email out when it's up. And then also I'm going to start a discussion in the VR Lounge. That same email that tells you that the video is up will also direct you to that discussion group in the VR Lounge. And a lot of these questions, I will enter the questions and answers into the group I create in the lounge so that you can see what's going on there and read all the questions and the answers. And again, ask more questions if you want. But for now, I'll let Raj close with any other information he wants to give you before we close out the demonstration.
Great. So first, I want to thank Richard for giving a fantastic demo of the product, and it's a lot for everybody to absorb in the 1 hour. So I'm glad, at least for everyone who stayed, that you've um, taken the time to not only sit with us and learn more about the product, but hopefully inspire you to think about what surveys you want to create, as well as what features you'd like to see. So as a product manager, I'm keenly interested in what will make this product a must-have for customers like yourselves. I will be sending out an email tomorrow with the details on how you guys can get started, on where you can contact us to get more information. I think everybody here has my email address as well as my phone number. Please do just, even if it's a quick email, I'd like to see this, or like, just go ahead and shoot that over to me as well. If you put that information in the lounge, it will be more helpful for everybody because we can all share, we can all take a look at it here at Vertical Response. So we're encouraging you to, yeah, we're definitely encouraging you to jump in wherever, however you see is best, and give us your feedback. So this, for everyone who's actually here and present on the call, you'll definitely be getting an email letting you know that you've passed your requirement of getting certified with this the survey product. So we'll make sure that we turn on the product for you. For anybody who's actually viewing this webinar just as a recorded session, I'm going to ask you to when you send a request to me to have the surveys turned on, if you could use the password San Antonio included in your email. That would be fantastic. So again, everyone, one last time, thank you for your time and attention during this presentation. We look forward to building a great survey product with your help, and do keep in touch.
Yes, thank you very much, everybody. That's the end of the demo. Again, if you have questions, just let us know.